Presents. I'm Jolie Whitney. Invasive forest pests, think plants, insects, and diseases, can cause significant damage to Vermont's forests and completely change the nature, literally, of the places we love. One of the ways these pests are spreading is by humans who unknowingly transport them. Today we're talking about a new and ongoing effort by UVM Extension, the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, and the Vermont Department of Forests, Parks and Recreation. To talk about arriving clean and leaving clean, we're joined by Savannah Ferreira and Judy Rosovsky. Savannah joined Vermont FPR as a forest pathologist in 2020 and runs the Forest Biology Lab at the Vermont Agriculture and Environmental Laboratory in Randolph. Judy Rosovsky is the Vermont State entomologist with Vermont Department of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you. And Judy, let's start with you. One of the more maybe prevalent bugs we talk about a lot is EAP, the emerald ash borer. And not long ago, we were even wondering if it was in Vermont. Can you talk about the effect of this bug?
Sure. So the emerald ash borer is in Vermont, and it kills ash trees. So you can see that up in the islands. It's a borer, so it bores into the wood. You can't really see it much.
And what are the signs?
So what you can see is when the tree starts to die, you'll see dieback, so the branches will be dead on the top of the tree. Since it's a borer, it makes D-shaped exit holes coming out, which can be characteristic for that insect. Epicormic sprouting, which is a tree is desperately trying to live, so it grows branches madly from the bottom part of the tree. But the real determinant is if you peel the bark off, and you'll see serpentine, S-shaped galleries where the larvae are feeding in the bark.
And this is a bit of an odd question, but is that the bug that they have the purple triangles in trees for?
Yes, exactly. Yep. That was a great PR move and helpful for locating the insects.
Absolutely. And how about the Asian longhorn beetle? What are the concerns with that one?
Yeah, well, the big concern is it kills maple trees. So that is, of course, panic on Main Street for Vermonters. We are the #1 producer of maple syrup in this country, and that would be bad if those insects came here. And they're down in Massachusetts. The way they're controlled is you cut down the host trees, so that
again, not ideal for Vermont.
Exactly. So again, they're another borer, so you don't necessarily see them. But actually, when they lay their eggs, the female makes like a quarter-sized divot in the trunk, which is visible, and their exit holes are dime shape. Yeah, they move on firewood. Don't move firewood.
And you said they're in Massachusetts. Are they in Vermont yet?
No. As far as we know, they're not in Vermont, and we sure don't want to find them here. And we really don't want people bringing them here.
And another bug that we're on the lookout for is the spotted lanternfly. Could you tell me about that one?
Sure, yep. That was first found in Pennsylvania, and it's a great hitchhiker. The first one found in New Jersey hopped into a woman's purse, got a ride to New Jersey, hopped out. So they hitchhike in all their life stages. The egg masses, if you remember the spongy moth infestation, they lay those egg masses on everything. So spotted lanternfly are similar. So just check all your gear. If you're in an area that has an infestation, check your car, your stuff, just look for any of them. They are pretty distinctive looking, so they're easy to spot.
And if you see one, should you squash it?
Yes. Thank you. Yes, good reminder. Yes, if you see them, kill them, and then take a picture and send it to us or to vtinvasives.org.
All right, and I don't know if we have a photo of this one, but you mentioned the spongy moth, and that's something that's been pretty prevalent in Vermont. Do you mind telling us anything about that one?
Well, spongy moth is funny because we used to get an outbreak every 6 to 10 years. They are sort of a cyclic outbreak. And then this fungus that kills them arrived in the late 80s, and we didn't have an infestation for 30 years. But they're here in Vermont, so when conditions are right, they will reach outbreak levels. And we had a series of years with droughts, and that made the fungus kind of die back and let them proliferate. So that one, we don't have to worry about people moving them because they're here.
They're already here.
Right.
All right. And Savannah, let's talk about little plants and diseases a little bit. We first talk about the hemlock woolly adelgid?
Yeah, so hemlock woolly adelgid is an invasive insect that can cause entire stands of hemlock to die. We're concerned about it because hemlock's an important native tree for our wildlife. It also has this really unique dense shade that is around streams and rivers that helps control the temperature of the streams for a native brook trout. People who are recreating in a forest where this invasive is present can actually vector or spread this pest on their clothes as well as their gear.
So it's a pest? Is it a plant or is it a disease? I'm just not as familiar with it.
Yeah, it's an invasive insect. So you can, if you flip over a hemlock branch that's infested, we call it infested if it's masses of insects. They're feeding below and they're actually using a straw-like mouth part to suck out photosynthate or tree food at the base of the needles.
All right. So something to keep an eye out for.
Yes.
And this one sounds a little self-explanatory, but can you tell me what the oak wilt is?
Yeah, so oak wilt's a vascular wilt pathogen of oak trees. It causes rapid mortality of hosts and it's easily spread by firewood. We're really concerned because oak is another native tree. It's a mast producing species, so our wildlife consume acorns and it's actually a preferred host for a lot of our native insects.
So it sounds like maybe this is impactful kind of all the way down. I guess you could say that about all of them, but all the way down some food chains.
Yes.
All right. And you said that one was is that more of a pathogen, more of a disease?
Yep, it's a fungal pathogen.
All right. And how about beech leaf disease? How can viewers identify this one?
Yeah, so beech leaf disease is caused by an invasive nematode, and it causes these dark banding in between leaf veins. Sometimes it's thicker than normal tissue, kind of leathery. It's also associated with crispy, empty buds at the end of the affected branch. Over time, you'll see branch dieback as well as entire tree dieback. This is another issue because, again, beech is a native tree in Vermont. It's a mass producer, so all of the beech nuts are consumed by songbirds, small mammals, and especially our black bears. And beech are unfortunately already stressed out due to a well-established beech bark disease complex that we have in Vermont.
So it sounds like some of these are more on the fungal level. Is there anything as like just a hiker who sees them, is there anything we can do, or is that largely left in the hands of people who, like you, who know a little more about it?
No, there's stuff that everybody can do at home. So if they see any of these invasive pests or pathogens, or even plants, we encourage them to report it on vtinvasives.org. That will send an auto email to Judy, myself, and other subject area experts, and we'll be able to follow up on those reports.
All right, and now that we've kind of set out a wanted list, Judy, why don't you tell me what's something you can do to prevent spreading them yourself?
Sure. So the best thing people can do is prevent their arrival by, we have the arrive clean, leave clean slogan. So check your stuff. Know the insects when you go in someplace, like what are the big bad bugs or diseases where you're recreating so that you know what to look for and what stuff you should clean out. Just get in the habit, look under your car, shake everything out and see if there are any pesties on it. One reason that we trying to involve the public in this too is that, for example, in spotted lanternfly, most of the reports of finding populations have come from the public. So if you know what they are and you can keep your eye out, that's a huge help to us. And also that you don't inadvertently bring them or anything else to our state if we don't already have them.
Sure. Is there a good resource I could use if I'm going somewhere and I want to check what invasives they have?
Well, we have our vtinvasives.org website,
Right.
which has a whole list of stuff. So yeah, that's a good one to take a look at.
Plenty of stuff to keep in mind.
That's right.
And Savannah, I think you guys have like 3 core things to keep in mind when you're going somewhere with invasives. What are those?
Yeah, so we're encouraging people to check their gear, clean their vehicles, and don't move firewood to help slow the spread of all these invasives.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit more about the firewood component of that? I understand cleaning your shoes and vehicles, but firewood might seem a little odd.
Yeah, so we always encourage people to buy local, so buy it where you want to burn it is a common phrase you might hear. Just because you can't see, say, oak wilt, for example, with the naked eye, doesn't mean it's not in there. Fungal spores are really small. Sometimes we have really small egg masses or larvae inside of the wood. So although it looks like a healthy, asymptomatic piece of wood, it could be harboring pests and diseases.
Okay, and if I'm out hiking or recreating and I see something, should I take a photo? Should I submit information to anyone?
Yeah, absolutely. You can take a photo and submit it to vtinvasives.org. That'll take all the information, like your location information, your contact information, and the photo.
That's right. Squish it first. We can identify them when they're flat. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Act first, ask questions later.
That's right. Like get it dead, then take your time and take a picture.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit more about the resources you folks have on the website for people looking for invasives or finding some in their community?
Yeah, so there's a whole list of invasive pests, aquatic plants, terrestrial plants, and pathogens on VT Invasives. What they look like, where they're distributed in Vermont. We have a really great map that's showing town-level infestations for all of these that get updated pretty regularly, as well as symptoms and then lookalikes.
All right, and are those updates coming from people out in the world seeing them?
Yeah, so as soon as we get a report of a new, unfortunately a new invasive in a new town, I'll update the map pretty frequently. As soon as we get the report, it will get updated.
Well, sometimes we do need to verify the reports, but yeah, as soon as we try to keep that updated, it's really important. You know, like if you're going camping in New Hampshire, you could see what's the nearest Vermont invasive pest and just make sure you're not bringing that with you when you're going to a neighboring state if it doesn't already have those insects.
And speaking of neighboring states, one of the animals we mentioned today was the Asian longhorn beetle that isn't in Vermont yet. Is that something you project happening?
Hoping not.
Not if everyone checks their cars and their shoes and their firewood.
Right, looks for those dime-shaped exit holes. Look, they're a big black glossy beetle. They're about the size of my thumb, so they're really big. So black glossy with white spots. We have some native insects that look like them, but if you're just not sure, just take a picture and send it, and we can tell you in a second. Actually, if somebody really finds it, we'll be like, ah!
And one of the animals we already have is the emerald ash borer, right?
Right.
How is the progress? Is that something that we've taken good strides in kind of cutting back?
Well, we have introduced biocontrol agents. That's through the auspices of Forests and Parks, so I should actually let Savannah talk about it. But it's also the USDA Plant Protection Quarantine Group has a laboratory which looks for and releases biocontrols for invasive species. So this has been helpful. But essentially, we're going to see a lot of ash trees die before the biocontrol insects are able to catch up with a emerald ash borer population and maintain that population at a lower level. We're hoping that that will enable ash trees to survive to reproductive age, because at this point, you know, it's possible that we will lose ash as a landscape tree unless these biocontrols can.
So progress isn't linear, but it's still progress.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And that takes care of Across the Fence for today. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX. I'm Julie Whitney. Have a good one.